Hello, that's me waving. I'm Samantha Funk, Program Manager of Volunteers for Friendship Ventures. Thank you so much for volunteering this weekend at Camp Friendship or Camp Edenwood. You're probably nervous, excited, and maybe just ready to get started. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we will be covering some need-to-know information to prepare you for the weekend. During the weekend, our respite coordinator, who is in charge of making sure things go well, will be able to answer any questions you have about the video or about working with our campers.
During the video, we'll be talking through several different topics. Those include volunteer policies, your schedule for the weekend, objectionable behavior, abuse prevention, our right to know policy, wheelchair safety, and how to help our campers. Let's talk about volunteer policies. This is John, Danielle, and Amanda. During the video, they will be helping me demonstrate. Sometimes they might be acting as you, the volunteer, or as a staff member, or as a camper. First, we're going to talk about the 3 things that you can never do with a camper. The first thing you can never do is be alone with a camper, which means that you must always be within eyesight of a staff member. There are many reasons why it's important to follow this rule. Let's demonstrate. John, a camper, and Danielle, a volunteer, are playing Connect 4 in the cabin. Amanda, a staff member, is working on paperwork and made too many mistakes. She decides to leave the cabin to go find more paperwork, leaving John and Danielle. John really has to go to the bathroom. He signs to Danielle that he needs to go, and he needs help getting to the toilet. Danielle doesn't know how to help John, so they have to wait until his staff returns. John really has to go, and she just doesn't know what to do. Instead, a better option, Amanda could have asked Danielle to go get the paperwork for her, or they could have taken a break from their game and went on a walk, which included grabbing paperwork. In this demonstration, Amanda asked Danielle if she could go get paperwork for her, and then she continues her game with John until Danielle returns. The second thing that you can never do is help a camper with personal care. This includes seeing a camper naked. You cannot help a camper put on pants, underwear, or a bra. And you cannot help a camper in the shower or the bathroom. You can never handle urine, spit, or blood. You cannot help a camper eat by bringing food to their mouth because we don't want you touching their spit. You cannot brush a camper's teeth for them. You cannot touch any clothing or any bedding that has urine on it. If a camper gets a cut or a bloody nose, you cannot help clean or care for that camper. You can never lift a camper. You cannot help them get in and out of their wheelchair, and you cannot give a camper a piggyback ride or pick them up. There are some things you can do as a volunteer. In this scene, Danielle, the volunteer, is helping John put on his shoes. She also could help him in the bathroom by putting toothpaste on a toothbrush for him and then handing it to him. Notice that Amanda, a staff member, is within eyesight of Danielle at this time. She could also help him wash his hands, brush his hair, or pick out his clothes for the day, as long as there is a staff member around. The third thing that you can never do with a camper is help them with their behavioral management. As a volunteer, you can say no 1 time, and then you must let a staff member deal with the situation. In this scenario, John and Amanda, both campers, are fighting over the crayons they're using to color on their paper. Danielle notices that they're fighting and asks them to stop. That doesn't work, so she signals for a staff member who is in the room with her, and I come over to help deal with the situation and break up the fight. Danielle doesn't have any training in how to deal with behavioral management, so having a staff member within eyesight is very helpful. There are other volunteer policies that it is very important to follow while you are on camp. You cannot leave camp until the end of the weekend unless you have permission from me. If there's a family emergency, the respite coordinator will call me and I will get permission for you to leave camp. You cannot smoke on camp unless you are 18 years of age or older. We do have designated smoking areas on camp, and the respite coordinator can show you where those are if you are 18 and want to know. No one on camp is allowed to have alcohol or illegal drugs with them. You cannot have your cell phone on you while you are with campers, not even to check the time. It's important that you keep your cell phone off and in your stuff. This is a very important rule, and here's why. In this scene, Danielle and John are in arts and crafts, and John is working on a painting. Danielle is using her phone to text underneath the table to try to hide it from the staff member she's working with. During this time, John takes an interest in the red paint that he is using and decides that he wants to try to eat some of the paint. Danielle, who's not paying attention, doesn't see John trying to eat the paint. This could be a huge problem for Danielle legally and for John physically. Because of this, staff and volunteers are not allowed to have their phones on them. The respite coordinator, who will be in charge of the weekend, will have their phone on them to answer calls from caregivers and for emergencies, but it is important that your phone is off and in your stuff. You may use it on your free time as long as you are not around campers. You must wear sandals with a backstrap or tennis shoes at all times. You cannot wear flip-flops unless you are in the shower. This includes your free time or any time you are outside of the cabin. You must wear appropriate shoes at all times while on camp. For girls, you must not wear any shirts that show any cleavage or any of your belly or your back. Spaghetti strap tank tops are also not allowed at camp. We ask that you wear thicker strap cotton tank tops or t-shirts while at camp. For guys, it is important that you keep your shirt on at all times when you're at camp unless you are swimming. We also expect that you maintain a safe working environment for yourself. This means that you make sure that you get appropriate amounts of sleep, that you take care of your personal hygiene, and you eat at meal times. If you are not ready and capable to do your job, you will not be able to provide the support that our campers need. Let's talk about the schedule for the weekend. At 5:30, our staff and volunteers will gather for a meeting to go over the plan for the weekend. In this scene, John, Danielle, and Sam, staff members, are talking with Amanda, the respite coordinator. After she goes around and has everyone give introductions, she will then hand out camper applications so that the staff members can read about the campers they're going to work with through the weekend. Typically over the weekend, our volunteers and staff members are each assigned to specific campers to hang out with for the weekend. As a volunteer, you still can't be alone with campers, but you're in charge of making sure that they have a good time. Let's go over the respite plan. In the top right corner, you'll see the name of an admin. Let's go over the respite plan. In the top right corner, you'll see an administrator who is on call for the weekend. If you aren't able to connect with the respite coordinator or you have something important to talk about, such as a family emergency, you can call the administrator on call. Otherwise, this is the person the respite coordinator will call if they have any questions. After looking at the respite plan and going over things for the meeting, the campers will start to arrive. Your job as the volunteer is to greet the campers, especially those who you're assigned to work with all weekend. Typically, when the camper arrives and you find out who you're working with, it's important to go up and introduce yourself and tell him or her that you'll be spending time with them over the weekend. After introductions, we typically will go play a game. This is the schedule for the rest of the weekend. As you can see, most of it is blank. On Friday night, the respite coordinator will work to fill in what the group will be doing over the weekend based on what they are interested in. Sometimes during the weekend, the group will go on a day trip to see a movie or go bowling. Swimming might also be included in the weekend. Each night, campers will go to bed around 9 o'clock, and from 9 until 11, you have free time to work on homework, read a book, talk with staff members, talk on the phone, as long as you're not around campers, or just go to bed, as long as you remain on camp. You're also welcome to use our equipment, such as our basketballs and parachutes in the gym, or play in our game room, as long as you remain on camp and follow all of our policies. You must be back in the cabin by 11, but you can choose when you go to sleep. Volunteers are typically done by 4:30 on Sunday. Our campers start leaving for the day on Sunday around 4 p.m. It is possible that you might be able to leave a little bit earlier, but it is important that you ask the respite coordinator before you leave. If you leave early without connecting with the respite coordinator, it is possible that you might not get credit for the time that you were at camp. So please make sure you connect with them before you leave camp on Sunday. Now we're going to go over objectionable behavior. During the weekend, you will be working with a diverse group of people. We train all of our staff members and volunteers how to appropriately handle and manage behavior with one another. Most of the people that you will be working with are your age. Sexual harassment is illegal. This includes unwanted sexual advances, inappropriate touch, requests for sexual favors, crude humor, and jokes about sexual orientation. If you feel at any point like you are being harassed by a staff member or volunteer, it is important that you tell the respite coordinator right away. We want camp to be a safe experience for you and for the people around you. The respite coordinator will deal with any situations confidentially. Let's talk about objectionable actions. Over the weekend, you may meet someone who you are interested in getting to know outside of camp, or maybe you're volunteering with someone you already know. It's important that while at camp, we maintain professional boundaries. John and Amanda are both volunteers this weekend at camp. Danielle, a camper, is sitting with them while they work on a puzzle. Sometimes it is very obvious to our staff members and even to our campers when others are acting inappropriately, such as excessive flirting, excessive touching, etc. It affects the working environment. In this scene, John and Amanda are completely ignoring Danielle and they're no longer paying attention to her. We ask that you do not hug, hold hands, cuddle, or sit on laps with other staff or volunteers while on camp. It is okay to get contact details or add someone on Facebook or other social media sites so that you may stay in touch after camp. It is possible that inappropriate interactions with staff or volunteers could lead to you not getting credit for your service hours or being able to use camp as a reference. We ask that you maintain professional boundaries the entire time that you are here. Sometimes our campers may want to give you a hug or ask to hold your hand on the way to the next activity. It is okay to do this with them. In this scene, John and Danielle are hugging goodbye before she leaves for the night. We say at camp that hugs are okay, kisses are not for camp. But sometimes a camper will do excessive hugging. If a camper is intruding on your personal space too much, it is okay to ask for a high five or a fist bump instead. In this situation, John has outstretched his arms because he really wants a hug from Danielle and from Amanda. Instead, Danielle says, "Why don't we high five?" and Amanda does a high five and a fist bump. Sometimes our campers will ask you for your contact details so that they can stay in touch with you after camp. You cannot add our campers on Facebook or give out any of your information like your phone number or email address. If they would like to stay in contact with you, they may write to you, and they will send this letter to camp, and we will forward the message on to you. It is very important that you do not add any campers, no matter how high-functioning they may seem, on Facebook or any other social media site. Next, we're going to talk about abuse prevention. This is one of the most important policies that we're going to cover. In fact, after you watch this video, there will be a test included that goes over abuse prevention. Now, sometimes our campers might report things to you, or you might see things like a bruise that have come from home. If those sorts of things happen, it's very important that you report it right away to the respite coordinator so that we can appropriately deal with some of those situations. Our staff and volunteers are trained very well on how to do their jobs, but sometimes, for whatever reason, a policy might not be followed. Though this doesn't happen often, it's important that you know what to look for when it comes to abuse or neglect so that you can report things as they might happen. We expect all of our staff members and volunteers to be advocate for our campers. In fact, you are what's considered a mandated reporter, which means that anything that you see or hear on camp from a camper or another staff member, you are legally obligated to report it. If you don't report it, we could press charges against you at a later time. So this means that you do not have a choice. You need to report anything that happens on camp. And what we usually say is if it leaves a funny feeling in your gut, if it just doesn't feel right, you should report it. The first person you could report it to is the respite coordinator. They will help you deal with any of those situations. If you're unable to report it to the respite coordinator or you don't feel comfortable, you can report it to the administrator on call. You could also report it to me. You should have my contact details after having learned about what to bring and expect for your weekend. You can contact me at any time if you need to report any abuse or neglect. Neglect is defined as failure to provide food, shelter, and a safe environment. You're going to want to know that it is on the test. Food, shelter, and a safe environment. So while campers are at camp, we expect that when they are outside, they're wearing appropriate clothing. So if it is cold out, they're wearing a sweatshirt. We're not going to let our campers play in the rain. We're not going to let our campers do things like stay outside all day long. We're going to make sure that they wear sunscreen and they wear bug spray and they wear shoes when they're outdoors. When our campers are at camp, we're going to make sure that they eat every meal. Now, if a camper does something wrong and they purposely throw a vase or hit another camper or do something that they know they shouldn't have done, we will definitely punish them. And we might punish them by taking away an activity they wanted to do, or maybe we take away dessert. But we're never going to take away a meal from them. We're not going to say, you're going to bed without dinner. That is considered a form of neglect. If a camper says, I'm going to stay in the cabin for the rest of the day, I'm not leaving, we're not going to say, well, if you won't go to the dining hall, we're not going to feed you. We will bring food to them if we have to. Now, sometimes our campers will not eat even after you've given them food. If we've tried to get them to eat and they won't eat, that is not considered neglect. But it is considered neglect if we do not provide an option for them. We're going to make sure that our campers are always in a safe environment. So we are going to make sure that they are supervised 24 hours a day when they are here. At night, it is important that there is a staff member in the cabin at all times. Now, you will not have to ever be this on-call person in the cabin, but if a staff member were to leave their on-call duties and you knew about this, it's important that you said something to the respite coordinator or to the administrator on call. We're also going to make sure that our campers are able to take at least one shower while they're here, that they brush their teeth, they change their clothes every day, and we are helping them with their personal hygiene and meeting their ability levels. So if they need full assistance, that we are making sure that they get everything. Now, if a staff member were to say that they were going to sign off on a treatment that they didn't actually do, that would be something that you would need to report. Obviously, you are not going to be helping a camper in the shower, but you are also accountable to make sure that the staff members are helping our campers. Another important thing for you to be aware of are the 5 types of abuse. The 5 types of abuse are physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, and financial. Physical abuse would be hitting or kicking a camper. Verbal abuse would be yelling at or threatening a camper. Emotional abuse would be putting a camper down, making them feel bad, calling them an idiot. Sexual abuse would be inappropriate touch. And financial abuse would be taking a camper's money and not giving it back. All types of abuse or neglect should be reported right away. Report to the respite coordinator or the administrator on call as soon as you learn of a situation. Though not many situations like this happen while on camp, it is important that you are aware of the rules just in case something were to happen. At the end of the weekend, the staff and volunteers will work together to clean the cabin. It's important that you know how to use the chemicals you will be cleaning with and using throughout the weekend. It's always important that you wear gloves. Danielle in this scene is showing you the type of gloves that she's wearing to clean the cabin. The cabins typically will have these type of gloves all over for you to use. In your cleaning bucket, you'll also find an orange pair of gloves. You can use these as well. One of the chemicals you will use is liquid bleach. In this scene, Danielle is using the liquid bleach bottle to spray down the mattresses at the end of the weekend. She sprays them and then wipes them with a paper towel and then props them up to say that they are clean. We would also use liquid bleach to disinfect countertops. When you're cleaning the bathroom, you will use Comet, which is a powder substance, to clean the sinks, the toilets, and the shower. We will use liquid bleach to clean off the countertops. In this scene, Danielle is using chemicals to clean out the sink. If you'll notice, a camper is walking in, and because Danielle isn't keeping a close eye on the chemicals, this camper is about to drink a bottle of liquid bleach, which will be extremely bad for her throat and her stomach. It's very important that you keep an eye on every chemical that you're using, and if you're not using it, that it is locked in a locked closet, because we do have some campers with pica, which is a disability that doesn't allow them to know the difference between what is food and what is not. We also have campers with Prader-Willi syndrome, where they're hungry no matter how much they eat. These type of campers might easily down a bottle of bleach without thinking twice about it. All of our chemicals are labeled with the chemical name, the number to poison control, the ingredients, and how to use the chemical. It's very important that if you find a bottle that is unlabeled, that you do not use it, because we're never sure what's in those chemicals. If you happen to get any chemicals on your skin, it's important that you wash the area with running water. Whether or not you are wearing gloves, you should still also wash your hands after you're done using chemicals. If you're volunteering in the summer, you might also help campers put on bug spray and sunscreen. Sunscreen always goes on first, and you should rub it in so that you can no longer see a white substance on their skin. We always make sure that we go up a tiny bit from the clothing line. So if they're wearing a t-shirt, we will put the sunscreen on a little bit above where their t-shirt ends on their sleeve to make sure that we cover all areas. Because as you know, when you move around and sit down, the area that is being covered might change. We make sure to put sunscreen on every open skin area, including their face, and make sure that everything is rubbed in. If a camper is able to put on sunscreen themselves, we will allow them to put sunscreen on, and we will just supervise. After you've put on sunscreen, we will then put on bug spray. We always put on bug spray outside, and bug spray cans should be held at least 3 inches away from the skin before spraying. It's always great to spray a little bit and then have the camper rub it in. You do not want to put on so much bug spray that it is dripping off of the skin. When applying bug spray to the face, we will put bug spray and spray it into our hands and then wipe it on the face. We will never spray directly onto the face. When putting on bug spray, we want to make sure that we get all areas, including their clothes and their hair, and especially their ankles. It's very important that our campers wear bug spray. We also want to make sure that we tell them to close their nose and their mouth so that they do not get bug spray in their body while getting sprayed. When helping a camper in a wheelchair, it's important to follow some safety rules. First, whenever we go down a hill, if we go forwards, all of the camper's body weight is being held by just our forearms. As you can see in this scene, Amanda is struggling to help John get down this hill because her body isn't able to support his weight. Now if we go backwards instead, John's weight is now being held by Amanda's whole body, making the transition much safer. We always go backwards when we go down any hills. Whenever we are pushing a camper, it's important that we talk to them and tell them where we are going before we go there. Notice how Amanda bends down to talk to John so that they are eye level, and Amanda tells John that they are going to the dining hall before she pushes them to the table. If John is able to push himself, we will allow John to push himself whenever possible. Instead, Amanda walks next to John instead of behind him so that she can continue her conversations. We always try to allow our campers to be as independent as possible. Once we get where we're going, even if we're not on an incline, we're always going to put the brakes on, and we'll let John know we're putting his brakes on, so that while he's at the table, he is safely secured in his chair. If a camper has a higher wheelchair, we're going to try to make sure that they sit at a table so that their knees do not bump the table. This might mean putting them at a raised table or putting them at the end of the table so that their knees do not hit. Now we're going to talk about how to help our campers over the weekend. Volunteers are a vital part of camp. Without you, we wouldn't be able to provide the support and fun that our campers need throughout the weekend. Your main job throughout the weekend is to support the campers that you are assigned to help. If you aren't assigned to help any campers specifically, your job is to support everyone. In the dining hall or the lodge, helping at mealtimes is very important. First, you want to check the special diet sheet. Some of our campers have allergies to certain foods or are on a specific diet. Check this before giving a camper any food items. After checking the special diet sheet, Danielle is currently getting food for herself and for John. She's asking him what he'd like to drink, and once she gets everything, she's going to sit next to him to chat. She might also get up. In this case, she's getting up to get John more water after he's requested it. When John and Danielle are done eating, Danielle will start to clear the table. She will put any leftover food on plates in the garbage, and then she'll put the dishes in the dish window. She will also help wash out the table. Staff will be sitting with you and will be able to help you if you are unsure where to go to get a certain item. But it is important that you help out with everyone in the dining hall and make sure that your campers are getting the support that they need. During the weekend, you will most likely get to do some recreational activities with your campers. It's important to keep them engaged in activities during the entire time. Danielle and John and Amanda are playing catch, but John is starting to get bored. So once he decides he doesn't want to play anymore, Danielle grabs other equipment so her and John can play with boom whackers on the side of the deck. During the recreation hour, Danielle's job is to make sure that John is having a good time, no matter what he would like to do. There will be times in the cabin in between activities where staff members are working on other things, and your job is to entertain your campers and the others in the cabin. Playing a board game or doing a puzzle is a great option. The staff can show you where to find these. You could also read a book to a camper. In this scene, John and Danielle are playing Connect 4. John has decided he doesn't want to play anymore, so Danielle is getting out a book to read to him instead. In structured activities like arts and crafts, your job is to support your campers. Sometimes this might mean helping them with their project. In this scene, Danielle is helping John glue his popsicle sticks together. Or it might mean working on your own project and chatting with campers while they work on their own. In this scene, Danielle is working on her own project because John is independent enough to do his project by himself. At any time, if a camper is working on their own project or their own puzzle in the cabin or at an activity, and you don't have anything to work on after you've asked the camper if they want your help, the next thing to do is to ask the staff members how you could help. In this scene, Danielle is asking Amanda what else she could do because John does not want her help with the puzzle. Amanda suggests that she clean up and tidy the table with all of the other games on it. Other options might be taking the garbage out or bringing things to laundry. Anytime you ask the staff, they will be able to help you know what the next step would be. Usually on Saturday night, the staff will ask you to fill out an evaluation of how your weekend has gone so far. They will also evaluate your performance. I will get this evaluation on Monday, and this will help me determine if you should receive credit for your work as a volunteer and will help form any reference letters that I may write on your behalf in the future. Assuming you try your best to help support our campers, you will get credit for your work here. If you decide to sit in the corner and do nothing all weekend or receive very low ratings on your evaluation, I will give you a call so that we can talk about your experience before I give you credit. Most of our volunteers have a great experience here at camp, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. If you don't know how to help, ask. Our staff members don't want to boss you around, but they do want your help. If you ask them how to help, they will always have suggestions of what you can do. This is the evaluation that the staff will fill out about you on Saturday night. It's important that you understand what things you'll be evaluated on.